Now, what is the difference between the person that can do a lot, feel energized from it, and yet another person who has a lot to do too, feels exhausted just from their to-do list? They have to drag themselves from job to job, feeling exhausted throughout the day. They rest, but they don't feel rested. They go on holiday, but they need another holiday. Is this you? Are you struggling with always feeling tired? It's like your body is unable to do what your mind wants to do, and it frustrates you because you're always exhausted and you don't want anyone to tell you, well, just do less and rest more, because you're a productive high achiever and you want to find a way to get rid of the tiredness and understand what is causing it, and more importantly, how do you ditch it? If this is you, you're going to love today's podcast, where we delve into exactly what is causing that tiredness that keeps you wanting to go back to bed, and how most of the time we're actually confusing mental exhaustion with physical exhaustion. You'll learn how to become energized to live that productive, high-achieving life that you really want to. So let's get into this. Welcome to the Happy Home Podcast, where we help Muslim mothers create success and happiness in their personal, professional and family life and raise their children as happy, pious and productive Muslims. My name is Sayed-Hossen and I am your host and the founder of the Happy Home Institute. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this week's podcast, where we're talking about how to get rid of that feeling of being tired all the time. Because you don't want anyone telling you, do less, my sister, and rest more. You want to feel fulfilled. You're a high achiever. You're productive. And yet, you're being held back by this feeling of being exhausted all the time. You know what it's like, my sister. You wake up and you feel tired. You think of your day ahead and that exhausts you. You have to drag yourself from one thing to another throughout the day, and yet all you want to do is climb back in bed. But then the evening comes, and you're too tired to do the things you want to do for yourself. You end up scrolling on your phone and going to bed late. Now you're even more exhausted. Then the weekend comes, yet there's so much going on. You're rushing from one thing to another, just trying to get through the weekend and getting things ready for the week ahead. But then Monday morning comes and you're still tired. You look forward to the holidays. That's a chance to rest, right? Except that there's so much going on. You plan to get the most out of your break that actually by the end of the holiday, you feel like you need another holiday to rest. Now, does this sound familiar? Are you always tired and never able to rest? Even when you sleep, you don't feel rested. Life is too busy, too much to do. You want to do it all, but truth be told, you end up regretting saying yes to most of it. You wish you had said no. You felt you had no choice. It would be good to say yes. Others do so much, why can't I, you think? Now you can't say no. You feel stuck because you have to go through with it, demoted to face it all, but exhausted, and you don't know how you'll cope. So you push through, get it all done, as you do always, but then you know you've overdone it. You're completely finished. You crash. Now you're meant to rest, right? That's what those burnout rest days is for, except you're too busy feeling awful for burning out, stressing because you know you're going to fall behind on an already busy life. You can't afford to rest. You can't even enjoy those burnout rest days because you're worried about falling behind. Part of you feels grateful when you're ill and lied up in bed. But then you feel stress, thinking, who's going to take care of things? No one copes like you do. They don't get it all done. You can't even relax when you're ill. So when can you rest and relax? Why do you take on so much and say yes when you know your life is jam-packed, filled to the brim? Maybe this is what your husband says to you, or your mum, or your sister, when you complain about being so tired. Now, am I telling your story? Because if I am, I'm exhausted just narrating it. Subhanallah. Look, this might be your story, my sister, but it's also the story of so many mothers out there. And it's exactly what one of my clients was struggling with and brought to coaching this week. She is a mother of three and a doctor and an extremely hard worker who thinks of herself as never doing enough. She joined the Happy Home School of Parenting recently, And one of the greatest struggles she was having that was impacting her parenting was that she was always exhausted and she wasn't able to give her children the best. So we were breaking down, having a look at what is going on for her. And this particular week was a great example because she had an extremely busy week this week and had planned a weekend away. Now she was dreading this week ahead because she was already exhausted just thinking about the next week and not knowing how would she cope as she was already tired. She dreaded burning out at the end of these 2 weeks because she knew that each time she burns out, she then falls behind with her home routine, and then that makes her impatient with her own children. And that was making her feel bad. What's the point in helping others when you're not able to give your children your best, right? But then if you give your children your best, you've got no energy to help others. How do we find the balance? She knew she had to overcome this. How do we stop feeling exhausted? That's what she asked. So I want to tell you how we reached a solution for her that got rid of the exhaustion, but still allowed her to do all the things that she had planned with ease. Now, in the world of most traditional coaching and personal development, we would be addressing why she keeps saying yes when she should be saying no, going back and saying, no, I'm sorry, I can't manage it all. And dealing with it at that level where, yeah, okay, great, you feel great for a moment to be able to say no. But if you've gone down this road of being empowered, that finally you can say no to people, you know that feeling of empowerment lasts only so long before you start to feel like maybe you're being a bit selfish for saying no to everyone. Or do I really want to be that person that no one can depend on? So how do we find balance in saying yes sometimes to the right things in a way where we're not too exhausted for our families? Isn't that really the solution we want? No one wants to do less. Not really. We want to do it all. That's the problem. How do we overcome that? It's like our minds and our hearts want to be able to do more than our bodies can. So rather than saying no and then not feeling fulfilled, it's important that we look at, well, why are we so exhausted in the first place? What's happening there? You see, if we just say no and we learn to say no, okay, we'll say no this time, we'll say no next time, but we're still going to have that feeling of wanting to help others, wanting to feel fulfilled, wanting to feel appreciated, not knowing how to feel fulfilled within ourselves. So instead of fighting that same urge over and over again, I want my clients to be able to resolve these issues once and for all. Otherwise, it's like playing a game of squash. You bat one ball and another one comes, and you bat one and another one comes. So what I help my clients do is change the game of life from a game of squash to a nice relaxed swim. You're still getting things done, you're still having an impact, and you're still feeling fulfilled, but you're not exhausted and living life at 100 miles an hour. You see, there's nothing wrong with a game of squash, but you can't live your life on a squash court. What you want to do is do the things you want to do, achieve what you want to achieve, feel productive and get things done. You want to be a high achiever, but you want it to feel easy, and you don't always want to feel tired. So this is the problem that needs to be addressed. Otherwise, the tiredness would keep resurfacing, and so would be the need that you're not doing enough. Now, I want you to understand where this drive I have to solve the problem at the root cause comes from. You see, I had previously trained in 2 different modalities of Western psychology, and I could see that my clients, even though they felt better, even though they actually felt a lot lighter while they were on the program, they were a lot more in control, that after some time, after they left the journey with me, the problems started resurfacing. Whether that was their self-confidence or their childhood traumas or their people-pleasing tendencies, their need to push themselves hard, or the anger would resurface after a while. And I was that sort of coach that kept in touch. I wanted to know how they were doing. And I could see that the problem was still there. Less, but still there. Not satisfied with that, I wanted to know how to solve for my clients' actual problems at the root cause. What was causing these things to happen, and how do we resolve them once and for all? I wanted my clients, when they came in for a transformation, to have a real transformation, which meant that they changed and they didn't go backwards. In my search for a solution, I had a moment of inspiration. It struck me that the answer must be in the Quran and Sunnah, for it is a complete guidance for mankind. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us our trials, no doubt He subhanahu wa ta'ala would give us the solution too, just as every illness has a cure. I started looking for the solution in the Quran and went to my then Quran teacher, may Allah bless her, and asked her, please teach me everything that the Quran and Sunnah says about thoughts, feelings, the heart, solving problems, managing our minds, managing our lives. We went through the ayahs one by one, and she gave me the tafsirs of them, and whilst I understood the explanation, I was left no clearer as to how to solve these problems practically for my clients. Simply explaining to my clients you have a heart and you need to weed out the diseases of the heart and turn back to Allah in patience was essentially what I had learnt in all my years of Islamic studies up until that point. And to be quite frank, I actually didn't want my clients to patiently live with their problems. I wanted them to patiently resolve their problems. That's what I was looking for. And subhanAllah, Allah always gives you what you look for, and Allah gave me the solutions to these problems that I wanted to solve for my clients. I came across the Muslim Life Coach Institute, which was a coaching school for Muslim coaches who wanted to learn how to practically solve the problems of the world using the Quran and Sunnah. You see, the other Muslim coaches that I had trained with in NLP and Inside Out coaching had taken Western psychology models and applied Islam to it. Some things fitted and some things didn't. Some things worked and some things didn't. But for sure I could see that the root problems continued for my clients when I was using these modalities. So what then pursued was a 4-year-long journey of learning, retraining under the science of the nafs psychology, mastering my ability to solve my clients' problems at root level. I studied for 7 to 8 hours a week for the last 4 years and did an equivalent to an undergraduate degree and a master's in understanding how to solve life's challenges through the Quran and Sunnah. Alhamdulillah, last year I was appointed as one of the instructors in the institute. And now when I check in with my past clients who learnt these tools and applied them, they say to me their life is great and it's just getting better and better. Now that's what I wanted to hear. Clients who worked with me previously as an inside-out coach came back to work with me under the science of the nafs, and they were amazed to see how different the way I coached was. They loved what they were getting this time around because they were learning how to solve every problem from the root level and change for good. Alhamdulillah, these clients now, they don't go anywhere else. They don't join any other coaching school after they leave me except the Muslim Life Coach Institute if they go on to train as coaches themselves, because many of them do. Imagine how amazing the science of the nafs is that the clients don't go anywhere else afterwards except to train in this modality because they know the world is looking for this and they want to be part of sharing that solution. Alhamdulillah, Allah guided me to what I was looking for, and I want you to know what you get when you come and work with me. As a master coach in the science of the nafs, trained to the highest level, alhamdulillah, I know how to help you solve your problems so that you resolve them for good and you get a real life transformation. You'll transform your parenting, your marriage, your emotional and your psychological problems. And finally, alhamdulillah, I found what I was looking for. Anyway, going back to my client, you're probably so engrossed in that story that, we've forgotten what we were talking about. The client who was struggling with exhaustion, burnout and frustration. I want to tell you how I helped her. After deep coaching her, we identified that the problem she struggled with was that she was very, very harsh on herself. She's always had a very negative self-image. And because she was so harsh on herself, she felt terrible. She just always felt terrible about herself. And that is why she kept doing things for people, in order to be able to counter that negativity that she was feeling inside of herself. She had to put herself out there, exhaust herself, burn out, and still it wasn't enough to counteract the negativity. These appreciation and kind comments that people gave her helped her to feel like a good human being just for a fleeting moment before she was back to berating herself. She knew it was there somewhere, a very negative feeling of herself that she didn't like, but she didn't know what it was and how to get rid of it. Through the power of coaching in the science of the nafs, I helped her see where it was coming from and how to replace it with a good self-belief. She messaged me the very next morning telling me that she felt great about herself, like she hadn't felt for years, light and at ease. And the best part is she was able to do everything she needed to in her busy day without feeling exhausted. Look at that. The exhaustion was coming from her negative, harsh inner dialogue. Imagine if you're giving yourself a mental beating morning and night, wouldn't you be exhausted? You see, we often confuse mental exhaustion with physical exhaustion. And I can tell you most of the sisters I speak to are not physically exhausted, they're mentally exhausted. They're mentally exhausted from the harsh inner beatings they give themselves. This here is the difference between the person that can do a lot and feel energized from it, and the one who has a lot to do and just the thought of their mental to-do list exhausts them. So which are you living with, my sister? Are you living with mental exhaustion or physical exhaustion? Here's how to know. Do you feel rested after resting? Or does it seem like no matter what you do, how much you rest, even if you've been on a holiday, you still feel like you need another holiday? Why? Because your body went on holiday, not your mind. I teach my clients to take a mental break for good. They swim through the mental sea of life with ease, not crashing against every wave, but swimming like duck to water, at ease and at peace with themselves. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking this is exactly what's happening to you, and you want help to overcome this mental exhaustion you've been living with for so long, and you want to stop the inner beating because you know that you're hard on yourself, you know that you never feel like you're good enough, you know that you're always comparing yourself to others and thinking, why can't I do more? And you're done with putting plasters on your life, short-term fixes. You want a permanent solution, and you want to live an energetic life, doing the things you want, need to, and love. Then you need to get in touch, my sister. Book a sales consultation with me. Find out what coaching with me will be like, how I help you resolve these challenges, and you will love how energetic your life feels without that mental exhaustion. Now, the link to book a consultation with me is below, and we'll have a one-to-one chat. Find out exactly how I can help you through coaching with me. Now we're going to leave it there. I'm sure this has been incredibly insightful for you, realizing that perhaps it's not that you need to do less, it's that you need to drop the mental beating that you're giving yourself. And if that means you're feeling energetic and light for the rest of your life, then that's going to be amazing. You'll no longer be holding yourself back mentally from what your heart wants to do and your body is capable of doing. Imagine that. All right, we'll leave it there, my sister. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Take care.